Hold on to your hats, Apple fans. The latest leaks about the iPhone 16 Pro Max have just dropped, and they're painting a picture of a device that's set to redefine what we expect from a smartphone. From a jaw-dropping new design to cutting-edge features, this might be Apple's most exciting iPhone yet. Let's dive into what we know so far. Let's kick things off with the elephant in the room. This phone is getting big. We're talking about a whopping 6.9-inch display, up from the already sizable 6.7 inches of the current Pro Max. Now, we know what you're thinking. Is this turning into a tablet? But hear us out. Apple's doing some clever stuff with the design to keep this beast manageable. Word on the street is that they're using some fancy new tech called border reduction structure, BRS. It's a mouthful, we know, but what it means for us is incredibly thin bezels. We're talking about bezels that are just 1.15 millimeters thick. To put that in perspective, that's even slimmer than the bezels on the latest Samsung Galaxy S24, so yeah, you're getting more screen, but the phone itself isn't ballooning out of control. Now let's talk dimensions. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is expected to measure about 163 millimeters tall and 77.58 millimeters wide. For those of you keeping score at home, that's about 3 millimeters taller and 1 millimeter wider than the current model. Not too shabby for a significantly larger display, right? The thickness is staying pretty much the same at 8.26 millimeters, and the weight is only increasing by a few grams to 225 grams. All in all, it's a pretty impressive feat of engineering. Alright, let's move on to the overall design. If you were hoping for a radical redesign, I hate to burst your bubble, but it looks like Apple's sticking with what works. The Pro Max will still rock that sleek titanium frame and frosted glass back we've come to know and love. But don't worry, there are some exciting tweaks in the works. For starters, rumor has it that Apple's cooking up a new process for finishing the titanium. We might be looking at a glossier, more premium look that harkens back to the stainless steel days, but with titanium's superior durability. It's like having your cake and eating it too. Color-wise, we're hearing whispers of some intriguing options. Expect the usual suspects like black, white, or silver, and a shade of gray, possibly dubbed natural titanium. But here's where it gets interesting. There's talk of a new rose or bronze color. Now, whether this leans more towards a subtle rose gold or a bolder bronze remains to be seen. But it's definitely something to look forward to for those who want their phone to stand out from the crowd. Now let's talk about something that's got the tech world buzzing. Buttons. Yeah, we know buttons might not sound exciting, but trust me, this is cool stuff. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is keeping the action button that debuted on the 15 Pro, but it's also introducing a brand new button called the capture button. This capture button is all about making your photography and videography experience smoother than ever. It's going to be located on the right side of the phone where the 5G antenna used to be. Don't worry, they're just moving that to the left side. What's really neat about this button is that it's both mechanical and touch sensitive. You can press it like a normal button, but you can also swipe on it to zoom in and out. A light press will focus your shot, while a firmer press will start recording. It's like having a mini DSLR shutter button right on your phone. And for those of you wondering about the other buttons, they're all staying put. The power button, volume rockers, and action button aren't going anywhere. Apple's clearly adopting an if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach here, and honestly, we're all here for it. Alright, let's shine a light on the display, quite literally. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is rumored to be using Samsung's new M14 OLED panel, and folks, this is exciting stuff. We're talking about a display that could pump out up to 1200 nits of brightness for your everyday use. That's a 20% boost over the current models, which means better visibility in bright sunlight and more vibrant colors all around. But it's not just about brightness. This new display tech is also said to be more power efficient, which could translate to better battery life. And who doesn't want that, right? There's also chatter about something called micro-lens OLED technology, which, again, could help with both brightness and power consumption. Now, remember those super thin bezels we talked about earlier? Well, they're not just for show. By shrinking the bezels, Apple's managed to squeeze in a larger display without making the phone feel unwieldy. It's a win-win situation, more screen real estate for your content without turning your phone into a literal brick. Okay, camera enthusiasts, this is where things get really exciting. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is shaping up to be a pocket-sized powerhouse when it comes to photography and videography. First up, let's talk about the main camera. We're looking at a custom 48-megapixel Sony IMX903 sensor, which is a step up from what's in the current Pro models. This new sensor is using a stacked design, which basically means it can process images faster and more efficiently. It's also got something called digital gain control, which should give you better dynamic range and less noise in your photos. In plain English, your pictures are going to look awesome, especially in tricky lighting situations. But wait, there's more. The ultra-wide camera is also getting a major upgrade to 48 megapixels. This is great news for those of you who love taking those sweeping landscape shots or squeezing a whole group of friends into a single photo. The higher resolution should mean sharper, more detailed images, especially when you're shooting in low light. Now, let's talk about zoom, because this is where things get really interesting. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is expected to keep the tetraprism telephoto lens that gives you that sweet 5x optical zoom. But here's the kicker. There are rumors floating around about a possible super telephoto lens. We're talking about zoom capabilities that could rival or even surpass dedicated cameras. While we don't have concrete details on this yet, the possibility alone is enough to get any photography buff excited. Oh, and one more thing, Apple might be adding a new anti-reflective coating to the camera lenses. If you've ever been frustrated by lens flare or ghosting in your photos, you know, those weird streaks or halos that show up sometimes, this could be a game changer. It's these little details that really show how much thought Apple's putting into making the iPhone 16 Pro Max a serious photographic tool. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what's going to be powering this piece. At the heart of the iPhone 16 Pro Max will be Apple's next-generation A18 chip. Now, Apple's chips are already industry-leading, but it looks like they're not resting on their laurels. The A18 is expected to be built on a 3-nanometer process, which, without getting too technical, means it'll be more efficient and potentially more powerful than its predecessors. But here's where it gets really interesting. There's talk of a significantly upgraded neural engine. This is the part of the chip that handles AI and machine learning tasks, and it sounds like it's getting a major boost. What does this mean for you? Well, it could lead to some pretty cool AI features right on your device. We're talking faster and more accurate image processing, improved Siri capabilities, and who knows what else Apple might cook up. The possibilities are pretty exciting. There's also chatter about improved thermal design. Apple's reportedly working on a graphene thermal system and a metal battery casing to help with heat dissipation. This could mean better sustained performance, especially when you're pushing your phone to its limits with things like gaming or video editing. Now let's talk about staying connected. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is expected to use Qualcomm Snapdragon X75 modem, which is a pretty big deal. This new modem supports what's being called 5G Advanced, which is essentially the next evolution of 5G technology. What does this mean in practice? Well, you're looking at faster speeds, more reliable connections, and better efficiency. The X75 is designed to be smarter about how it uses 5G, leveraging AI and machine learning to optimize your connection. It's also more compact and power efficient than previous models, which, again, could help with battery life. Now, I know what you're thinking. My current 5G is fast enough. Do I really need this? And you're right. For a lot of day-to-day tasks, you might not notice a huge difference. But as we start to see more data-intensive applications, things like augmented reality or streaming high-quality video, having that extra headroom could make a big difference. Well, that's all for today, so mark your calendars for September 2024, because that's when we're likely to see this beast unveiled. Until then, we'll keep our ears to the ground for any more leaks or rumors. Who knows? Maybe Apple's got a few more surprises up its sleeve.